And we are live. Welcome to this episode of Wealthy Wednesday. Today is going to be incredible. I know you're going to love it. You definitely want to come in and you're going to want to invite other people to come and enjoy this show. My guest today is going to bring the fire. I've already had an incredible chat with him backstage and offline. We met a couple of weeks ago, and I'm so overjoyed that we were able to figure this out and get him on here because his schedule is packed and jam-packed. I thought I was busy, but he is so busy, he makes me dizzy. So come on in. Let me know where you're tuning in from. We are live on Facebook. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. Yeah, we're live on YouTube. So let us know where you're tuning in, if you're here live with us or if you are catching this on the replay. We love you, Team Replay. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time that you took to check out my show and check out what we're doing here. Well, I'm saying today you're going to need some comfort. Okay, you're going to want some comfort. Get your fuzzy slippers. You want to have something nice and soothing to enjoy. I'm a green tea kind of person. I don't drink a lot of coffee. I'm more of a social coffee drinker. If I see you drinking coffee, then I want coffee. But otherwise, I love my green tea. And I'm loving to see you, Miss Gita Girl. She is, if you don't know my Gita Girl, she is actually the president of my 4 a.m. club. That's right. She doesn't know it. I just deemed her, I just put this crown on her a couple of days ago. And I think it's a perfect crown for her, although she wears many crowns because she is our Gita Girl. Gratitude is the answer. If you don't know her, you got to follow her. She shares some incredible poetry, a lot of inspiration, and she has some amazing things in the works. I'm telling you, she's going to blow you away. So why I say you want to grab something, a little bit of comfort, we're going to kind of talk about a deep topic today. And it was really interesting to me because when I initially heard of this topic, I really kind of thought, which we're going to talk about Mosaic families, which is blended families. On first blush, I really kind of thought, well, gosh, I don't know many blended families. But as I started to unpack this conversation, it really brought me a lot of awareness that I know many blended families. I know many Mosaic families, meaning that they may be in a second time around relationship, whether it's marriage or, partnership, but there's also a lot of disjointing that can happen during the process of raising a family. Kids go away to college and now they come back and they're trying to figure out how they put those puzzle pieces back together, or mosaic, let's say the mosaic back together. Things happen. Maybe there's not, maybe they don't actually divorce in the family, but there's just different dynamics that happen. Maybe there's a death of another family member that people were really close to. I mean, there's a lot of things that can fracture our family. And he calls it a mosaic family, which I love that metaphor because I love mosaics. You guys don't know this, but I love to tile. I love tile work. I'm saying I love tile work. I've only done tile a couple of times, but I really enjoyed it. And I love mosaics. And I just am fascinated by how all of those things go together. And I think I love it because I love puzzles. So it's like it's another layer on how to explore puzzle pieces. So today's going to be, we're going to talk about a deep topic, but I know this is going to resonate with a lot of you. So like I said, reshare this, please. Invite someone in that you believe needs to know this message or can appreciate this message. And so without further ado, I want to introduce my guest speaker. And I've talked about this many times, but I would really encourage you, put a 1 in the chat if you are enjoying no pitch coffee chats with your connections, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook, or maybe you're not even on social media at all. Well, I guess if you were not on social media, you wouldn't see this. But put a 1 in the chat if you enjoy meeting your connections face to face, no agenda, no pitch coffee chats. In other words, I'm not there trying to sell you anything. I'm not going to try to get you to buy anything. I just want to get to know who you are. I love no pitch coffee chats. I think I'm the queen of no pitch coffee chats. I love getting to know my connections. Maybe I can connect you with somebody. Maybe there's a resource that I have. Maybe there's just some kind words that we could share with one another. You never know what treasures you're going to find. And by the way, when you do more coffee chats, you will find that other people will start to make introductions for you. Connections and collaborations can open doors that you cannot open yourself. And that is, to me, the true goal of us networking and talking to each other, getting to know each other on a personal basis. And this next guest was introduced to me by my incredible Miss Igai. Where are you? Miss Nicole Igai Galindo. She is our Guiding Brilliant Writers publisher, and she is a publisher of this book and many, many others of those. She made this incredible connection for me that I don't know that I would have made on my own. And the treasure that I'm going to give to you is truly a gift. The gift of this conversation. I promise you, this will be a conversation you will reflect back on. That's why I'm wearing my blue blazer, because I know this is going to be watched on replay many times. So he is a therapist, an author, a professor, and the creator and founder of the Mosaic Family System. He's also a military veteran. And I recently just learned this morning, he's also a songwriter. Who knew? Who knew? But I'm going to tell you, we had an amazing conversation. And when I met him, I said, you know what? I just need to have you on my show. I just need to have you. I need to know more about you. I need to share what you do. And so I'm so humbled and honored to have him here as a guest speaker. So please give it up and give a warm round of applause for the incredible Dr. Steve Hudgins. And let's bring him up. Here we go. And the crowd goes wild. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Leah. Thank you very much. You know, you're talking about your coffee chat group, and I'm like, okay, what kind of flavor are we adding to the coffee chat? So it's whatever flavor you bring. So I really appreciate being on your show.
Thank you so much. So I want to welcome a few people who've joined us live, which is Sharon Rose Winfield. I call her Rosie. Like I said, she's the Gita girl for sure. You've got to connect with her. I adore her so much, and I know you will too. And of course, our incredible Guiding Brilliant Writers, Nicole Igai Galindo, publisher, and just an incredible human being. She is a connection queen. I absolutely adore that. She's constantly making connections on LinkedIn. You will watch her live making connections and reaching out to people and connecting them. And she does it behind the scenes also, which is really the brilliance, one of the brilliance behind her. And then we have one of my favorite guys in the world, Mr. Merrill. Thank you for joining us. Great to see you. Happy Wealthy Wednesday. I love Wealthy Wednesday. It is my favorite day of the week, but I don't know. I love Money Mondays. I love Tax Tip Tuesdays. I love Financial Literacy Fridays. I love just talking about money. And today we're going to take a different approach when it comes to money. And yes, I see there's some ones in the chat. Coffee chats are incredible. So if you're not doing them, I really encourage you to do that. And we have Ms. Sharon Byrne. Thank you for joining us. If you are struggling with student loan debt, you're not sure how this all works. If you have student loans, you know someone who has student loans, you have a child that has student loans, please connect with Ms. Sharon Byrne. She has not just debt forgiveness programs, but also restructuring and repayment options, because this topic gets really deep. It really bleeds into what we're going to talk about today. But what I would love for you to do, Dr. Steve, is just tell us a little bit about who you are, because you have so many facets to you, but just give us a little glimpse about who you are.
You know, that's difficult when the spotlight's on you. I'm on the other side of the podcast doing the exact same thing. And, you know, it's a challenge to try to come up with words. And who would think an author doesn't have words? When you think about my life journey, I grew up in a military home, a Christian family. You know, I started off on a path, a journey, wasn't my cup of tea at the time. I went military to get a different perspective. Went and thinking about it, But talking about student loans, that's the reason why I went into the Army. They were paying back my student loans. And did my 4 years active duty as a telecommunications engineer, moved to Tulsa, did 4 years reserve duty as a criminal investigator, working in that unit there. And then I was working multiple jobs until the industry of MCI went downhill due to some corruption there. And so I've always tried to prepare myself for any kind of situation, so that moving back from Japan, my dad was in the Air Force, so I grew up in that military home. Uh, I had someone approach me at church and said, "Hey, you're not your typical 17-year-old. I know your birthday's coming up. How would you be able to uh, be my assistant night manager at my grocery store?"
Wow.
So at 18, I started working as a manager and that's where my career took off. In 2012, I switched and went back to school once I was working for US Cellular, plotting cell towers and things like that. Went back to school, went to Liberty University. I did have student loans back then. But because I contracted a military injury that caused some damage to me, my student loans were forgiven for the compensation of what I went through. But in 2022, I went back to school and got my doctoral degree. I run a private practice. I teach at a university. Just released my new book. So that's about me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. And Miss Gita girl, she said she's a Mosaic family here. And you know what's really funny is that when I first heard your book, I thought, wow, gosh, I don't know anyone who's a Mosaic family. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm a Mosaic family. It didn't even occur to me. So maybe a lot of you don't know this. This might be the first time I'm really publicly talking about this. But when I was married, me and my ex-husband ended up raising my sister's children. She had gotten into substance abuse. Me and my sister were very, very close. We lived in the same town. We, spent a lot of time together. We did dinners together. And, it's like, hey, I got chicken. What do you got? Come on over. We did a lot of those kinds of things. And so when she started to have this substance abuse challenge, probably we didn't see it. And so it kind of went on. And then suddenly the school started calling us saying, hey, the kids are showing up and, they haven't eaten. They're showing up without shoes and things like that. And so it got to the point where we had to take them in, but they were very young. They were 5 and 6 years old at the time. So I don't even think of it as a Mosaic family because they're my boys. It didn't even occur to me. So I don't know what that says about me, but so then when I started to read your book, and here's full disclosure, I did not read the entire book, but I read a few. I know enough to know to kind of get the glimpse of it, but definitely a book that you want to take a deep dive into. And so a couple of things that really stood out to me is that I think we all, in some ways, are a Mosaic family for many different reasons. And I would love for you to just really explain in your words, what is a Mosaic family?
I never thought about terminology, but when you think about the word step parent, your first exposure is Cinderella. That story is a blended family in itself, but we call them step parents. And then unfortunately, she became the evil stepmother. And so step parents got the connotation were evil or something along those lines. And that didn't set well with me. And in my book, I talk about my journey of what caused me to get into some blended families of my own. and it didn't set well with me. There was one situation that I talk about, the dynamics of having boundaries in a step family, and it just occurred to me, well, wait a minute. Blended means there are no boundaries. We're just mushed together in a blender, and as there's no identity.
Right. Right.
And so I thought, well, wait a minute. Mosaic makes more sense. It's two individual shards that come from broken homes, their intact family, that come together, decide to, hey, we're going to make a new family. And to me, that's what mosaic is beautiful pieces of different colors, that just come together and make this beautiful picture. And to me, that makes more sense because you bring the color, you bring individuality, you're recognized for that. But the grout that's in, like you mentioned, tile work, you have grout that holds these pieces together. And I think if we could start looking at them as mosaic family, not blended, not step, not bonus, it just sets the stage of how to have better treatment for these type of families that are hurting.
Yeah. Not step, not bonus, but really, and not even blended, a
Right.
mosaic. And mosaics are beautiful and they're perfectly imperfect, the way that they're put together. And it made me think of reading your book, made me think of the Japanese art Tensuki. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but I love the art when you see that bowl that's all kind of broken, but then it's put back so beautifully with the gold and the lacquer, and it's made beautifully imperfect. That was the first visual that came to my mind. And aside from mosaics that I absolutely adore. And one of the things that really stood out to me, well, the first thing that stood out to me is, I mean, this is a significant book, y'all. Okay. So, but isn't this a beautiful cover? Look at how pretty that is. One of the things that really stood out to me is how very gentle you are. Your words, your phraseology is so one of the reasons why I wasn't able to get through this book, because I've had it for a few days, but I really didn't, because this book really, your intentional verbiage really, and for me, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, maybe Nick could speak to this too, is it's very methodical and it really requires you to take it in. Is that intentional, or is that my interpretation?
I do that even in my private practice. I look at, we're human beings that need to have a connection. As a faith-based person, my principle is that we talk about, there's a passage that talks about confess your sins. And I don't like the term sin because to me it's a judgmental God term, right? And what I try to explain to my clients or anybody, that I come from confess your humanity.
Mm.
When we talk about confessing our humanity, it doesn't one up us. Well, I'm better than you because I'd never gotten drunk or whatever. It's not about that. It's about what way can we have a conversation. And that's what I try to do with my clients or anybody in my book. I grew up watching the Waltons, and I
Mhm.
loved how John Walton would, write his work from a personal level. And coming from a journalistic background as well, um, why not have a personal conversation that is not coming at you, not condemning, not shaming. I just feel like, oh, wait a minute. I I want people to know that you're not alone in your pain, because I thought I was alone in my pain. And when I started connecting with people, that's the reason why I wrote the tone that I did, not on a professory, not a theoretical, dry type stuff. I wanted people to know that, hey, um, we're taught as clinicians not to reveal anything about yourself in fear of countertransference. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Therapists are humans too. How do we get here? Because we got to work on our own stuff. And that's the reason why I took the approach that I did, because I want people to realize that, hey, I'm not above anybody. I'm walking beside you because I've been there, done that, and we need to have a voice in our community that's not afraid of what other people are going to think. Because when I believe that you own your story, who can take that away from you by blaming you when you already talk about it?
Yes, that is beautifully said. And this is what I mean by kind of this book creates pauses for me. And this is a few things that he says I want to highlight here. And this was probably the first thing that stood out to me. This is the first little earmark that I put in. It says, "We are not meant to blend in. We are made to be placed with purpose." I went, wow. We're all placed with purpose. We're blending our families, but I would say we're blending our communities.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to say, stop saying blended. We're having mosaics with our communities. We're having mosaics with our families. We all have so much differences. And if we could learn how to be placed with purpose in each other's hearts and each other's communities, I think we could be better. And so that was a pretty profound little, I mean, that's just one little phrase in this book, you guys. He says, wholeness is not the absence of fracture. It is the honoring of every edge. And that's when the Kensuko came to my mind. I was like, wow, okay, yeah, I'm thinking of that art and all the edges and all the rough edges and all the smooth edges. True strength is not only about facing challenges, but also about loving deeply and being vulnerable. A mosaic family is not a blend, it's a masterpiece. I mean, think of how beautiful that is. The words are so deep. Who could just read that and just keep on going? Like, is it just me? Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down here? This is like really, really a thoughtful book. It's something that I think a lot of people would be shocked that they should read it. It's probably, if you think, well, I don't have a blended family, I don't have stepchildren, or I don't have bonus children. No, I really think this is the way that we could put our entire community back together. So now that we know what a mosaic family is, share a little bit about your journey, if you would, with us.
When you think about growing up, it's like, I want to get out of the house. I want to be a grown up. And we get to this adulthood, and it's like, well, wait a minute. I want the world to slow down. I want to go back to being a child again. And so, are we really truly happy about where we are in life? Do we
Mm,
pause and reflect? Are we being reactive to our choices and decisions? Are we being methodical and proactive? Growing up, it was more of reactionary for me. But at the same time, I had to learn what happened to me. And because of my father being in the military and other things that I describe in the book, it caused me to have that anxious attachment style.
mm,
And that's where I begin to I have looked at my world through an anxious attachment style lens.
mm,
I didn't want rejection. I didn't like abandonment. It wasn't my father's fault that he had to go, overseas. But at the same time, I didn't realize that caused some harm to me in an attachment style because I haven't seen him in a year. And so we start looking through our lens. And so any attention that gravitated towards me, I sucked it in. I favored the attention. I'm in my military uniform walking in Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas, in my uniform, and I hear this cat whistle. And I'm looking over, and here she is behind her counter waving for me to come over. And that's where my journey started. Was all from a cat whistle that attracted me like a dog to a bone, wanting to go chase it. And I didn't put thought behind the intentionality of dating. I think sometimes that's why we call ourselves dopes when we're dating, because it blinds what we're seeing. And so that dopamine kicks in and it just blinds you to what's there. And so because of it, I connected to a family. Unfortunately, 7 years into the marriage, we had divorced. A lot of the information, my kids don't know the reasons why. I don't want them to know because it's an adult business. I will say that it caused harm. From there, it hit. When you think about looking in your bank account, you're like an onion. You're about to cry because it's all empty, and it just that's the way I felt coming out of that marriage. And so, when you think about the fracture of an intact family, uh, being trained as a military, I'm a warrior. I don't like giving up. So I pursued my children because I was given every other weekend. And that's the other passion behind this book. It's not about parental alienation. It's not about the parent. Yeah, it feels hurt because you're not able to see your kids, but 4 times a month. And when you think about the aftermath of the divorce, right? And what I found fascinating is that children in blended families, especially those with cohabitating step parents, have a poverty rate of 40%, which is over 3 times higher than those with married step parents. So I got married, went back to court, and the court awarded me custody of the children. And so it's been an up and down, topsy turvy, especially when you have a parent who alienates only because they had transgenerational themselves alienation from her mother, grandmother, and stuff like that. So that's been my journey, getting into blended families and learning the experience. It becomes difficult to hold on, simply because 65% of divorces happen in blended family more so than intact, because the number one cause is unresolved childhood hurts. So
Yeah.
when you go from an intact family, not resolving those hurts, going to a blended family, now you've got the marriage that broke that comes in as a hurt. So that's where I've been in my personal journey. And then just realizing I need to get therapy for myself to figure out what is causing me to make some unhealthy choices that I didn't think at the time was unhealthy.
Yeah. Absolutely. They say hindsight's 2020. I think it's
Right.
absolutely so super clear. It's a microscopic how clear it is. But one thing I want to highlight, and then we're going to talk about the finances. I want to unpack that. But one thing I really loved about your book is that it really brings the children up, and the relationships that they're having to now navigate while they're still reconciling their own feelings. And what I see a lot is the culture as well. I love you, you love me, so our kids are going to love each other. And that isn't always the way that it is. And that may be, but we have to be really aware of how we're introducing those relationships. And I want to, not that I'm going to read this whole book to you guys, but I really want to highlight this because I just think it's really profound. He says some key takeaways here. Forming a family quickly can feel exciting, but emotional readiness cannot be rushed. Healing requires time, not just shared intentions. Children may comply outwardly while still grieving inwardly. Just because a family looks blended does not mean it feels bonded. Fast forming relationships often skip essential stages of emotional safety. Grief, honesty, and boundaries cannot be bypassed if trust is to take root. And here's the other one. It's slowing down is not a weakness. It is wisdom. Taking time allows space for clarity, alignment, and deeper connections to form naturally. That's the key. Sometimes we have to slow down to speed up. And oftentimes when I see these families come together, I kind of see them oftentimes towards where they've already blended, they're already remarried or recoupled, and now they're looking at how are they going to satisfy their estate. And then I often see them when the state is ready, it's already, someone's passed away. And what happens, Dr. Steve, and you probably have seen this too, is that that's when all the hurt feelings come out. They may seem that they have resolved it. Your kids may be getting along together. Maybe you're sharing turkey every Thanksgiving. But when they start to talk about the estate plan, that's when all the finger pointing starts. That's when everybody says, well, remember when we first got together? Remember when you did this? And all of that, which you think has been that mosaic beautifully paired together, becomes very disjointed. And that's when the real hurt begins. What would you share about that?
When I have couples that come to me and saying, what's the primary thing that's happening? Sometimes you'll hear about finances, sex, children, whatnot, but the most common thing that I hear in my office is we're having trouble communicating. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You guys got together on communication. That's why we got married. Where did it fall off? And what we don't realize is when we don't feel safe, seen, or heard like a child, guess what comes out in our adulthood? The exact same kind of wound. And so we go to what is familiar, what I call behavioral conditioning, because it worked in the past, it's going to work now. I can yell to get my point across. And when you think about the level of communication, it comes out more hurtful.
Yeah.
So I focus on fear. Fear to me is the root, not the communication. It's the fear what you felt as a child not being seen, heard, or valued. And when you think about these families, you're looking at not only the first impact of the divorce of the family. Now you got parents paying child support. You have, trying to plan estates, and it's like, okay, who's what, children going to what, when, where, and that becomes, a travesty in itself. And what's unfortunate is that children who live with two unmarried parents prior to getting into a blended situation face a poverty rate about 38% compared to 7.5% for children living with two married parents as of 2019. That's devastating.
Mm.
And so what ways can we salvage marriage? It's being able to, are we looking at marriage as a certificate or as a covenant?
Mm.
Because when you think about our society, we have so many different choices. We don't have loyalty anymore. Because of why? Because sometimes our loyalty is betrayed. And so we go looking for something else. And we continue to look something else, which becomes the norm. And so often are we looking for happiness outside of ourselves and not within ourselves, and trusting and working through some of our problems. And I think that when we start working inwardly and facing in the mirror of who we are, that's when true healing can begin.
Whew. Say that again for the people in the back.
You got to face the mirror, and be okay with what you see and begin to work on what you see, because that's where true healing begins. But at the same time, don't be like the man in the mirror that walks away and forgets what they saw.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
implement.
I want to highlight it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, at what point can I see, Leah or Sharon or Nick or anybody that I cross my path, that you're a human being and there's nothing new underneath the sun. We just experience it differently because of how we view our world about pain. Where do we have compassion? Where do we have patience for the other person that's hurting? Our initial response is to react out of our own hurt. But we take the moment to realize, I don't like the word trigger because to me that's a projection of that caused my pain and I take no responsibility for my hurt.
Yeah.
So when we hurt, what's that splinter that's within you that's causing the stimulation for you to feel hurt? Yeah, somebody caused the stimulation. But what if it was unintentional? Did they really hurt you? It may feel like it because the pain is in the past. So it's learning to extract that stimulation, that splinter that's there and pulling it out so that we can have that healing. At the same time, it's learning to forgive ourselves for not saying anything as a kid or not saying enough. That's where truly healing becomes is when we get able to have forgiveness. If we can have lone forgiveness, why can't we have forgiveness of ourselves and other mankind?
I 1,000% agree with you. I've been on my own healing forgiveness journey. Definitely, definitely. And I want to highlight this comment by our very own Queen Dr. Leslie Flowers. She's absolutely one of the brilliants on LinkedIn. If you don't know her, if you're on YouTube, come on over to LinkedIn. I promise you, you got to connect with our Queen Dr. Leslie Flowers. And she hosts Mind Over Matter Mondays at 7 a.m. Pacific. Also, our Think and Grow Rich Friday. She's our Think and Grow Rich master, and she's hosting right now a goal setting session. You've got to get it. She normally charges for this. She's doing it for free, which is one of my favorite F words, but only if you join her. You got to connect with her. She says, I like the Mosaic families to get together and read the examples so that they can see themselves in the examples. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Did you want to speak to that at all, Dr. Steve?
It's again, that's the whole purpose of the book is to be able to recognize, hey, I see myself. How often do we get into these self-help books that become kind of dry? Because did the writer have an experience when they wrote this, or are they just writing on a topic? And
Yeah.
so I'm passionate about family, preserving families because, we need to start having a healthier transgenerational wealth than poverty of hurt.
Yeah. Yes. I concur. And Rosie says, allowing self to be an individual in a Mosaic family or any family. We're all a Mosaic family, I think. The more that I unpack this, I really believe that we are, because there's so many things that happen in a family that divide us, and now we're trying to come back together. It could be a loss. It could be a birth. Oftentimes people think a birth is a wonderful thing, but what if you're having a child and maybe it's a child after your children are already grown? I know a lot of people in that situation. And so now they've got grown children and they have this newborn baby, still with the same family, but it changes the whole dynamics. Now the baby of the family is no longer the baby. I mean, there's a lot of things. So there's a lot of things that can break us apart, but how are we going to beautifully redesign our new roles and how we come together and what we can really honor in each other that we each bring to the table?
That's one of the things I wrote in the book as what I call my advice. I think there's several chapters that I put in there about different advices. And one of those is being able to have healthy boundaries. Because when you think about here you are a middle child is hardly seen. That's why they want the attention because the baby gets the attention. The firstborn is always getting the attention. I know because I'm firstborn and I got the attention, some of which I didn't like. But at the other time, you are absolutely right that the shift in blended families, oftentimes we lose our identity. And it's about reframing of what identity we are. Bowen Family Systems talks about intact families, individualization. I do one step further of taking it to Mosaic as Mosaic Family Systems theory, because when I think about blended or Mosaic family, you have more than just one identity.
Yes.
You have a child that has four different places to do, because of the ex parents and the step parents and the biological parents, and it becomes a difficult identity to establish what their emotion may be. So establishing emotions can give you a voice that can be respected, and that's why I offer the advice of have weekly family meetings, especially when the kids come back together.
Yeah.
I'm currently doing research on the disruptive parental attachment about does the split 2 to 3 help children or week on, week off help? And the stability that's there is that if you want to do two of the lesser evils, is a week on, week off, simply because the kids don't feel like they're living in a suitcase for all their life.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I see that. That is so difficult for a child to do. Difficult for any of us to do, right? Then we never feel like we're settled anywhere. Um, Creating healthy boundaries and just the disruption of where we are, our dynamics in our family. So this was my experience. So I have biological, my son who's the oldest, and then my biological daughter who's the youngest. And so there were two siblings, and they're 5.5 years apart. So my daughter was treated like a princess, and she still is to this day. Her when my daughter was born, my son took a look at her. He was 5.5 years old, and he said, "Now we're finally a family." He just
Mm.
wanted a sibling. He was so overjoyed. He just adored everything she did. He gave her anything she wanted, and so now we have two more additional males in the household. And so for us, what happened was my daughter was elevated to queen princess, because now she had three boys who adored her and protected her and all of those things. So according to all of them, she's my favorite. And I'm not going to comment on that, but it's just different with our daughters. So great points as far as the dynamics in our family can change over time. And so then how do we create those boundaries and how do we talk about them? And I would love for you to talk about how do we create those boundaries when it comes to finances, because we're not just blending people. We're not just creating a mosaic with people. Now they have this asset, they expect to inherit this asset, and now we even have another family because now they've got a half sibling with another. I mean, there's so many things that come together. So what would you say are some key foundations to creating financial boundaries?
Number one, I suggest prior to getting married into a blended family is to discuss finances. Be open and honest about, what is it that we can do to set these healthy boundaries. Oftentimes we're afraid to share a credit report. I've got an app on my phone. If you want to look at my Experian credit score, I'm happy to share that. I'm proud of that score because I came from a travesty uh, back in the day when I divorced. But creating healthy boundaries, talk about your goals. We don't talk about financial goals as a couple. Where do we see ourselves in 5 years? Do we really want to? What one parent says, "Well, I want to pay for everything for my college for my kid," and the other one says, "Nope, they got to learn on their own how to work things out." And so now you have two difference of opinions. I've got a couple kind of doing that right now where he still has two children at home. Her two children are older, and it's become a financial burden situation because he feels like the kids need to learn on their own. And she's like, no, I want to be able to help them. So at what point do we enable our children to the past to the point that they can't think for themselves to find ways to be resilient in difficult times of financial issues? So I think by sitting down and discussing goals, what does that look like for each other? And the biggest one that I think is a blanket is don't settle. Just because it looks great on paper, just because that person is a good looking person or you have a lots in common, don't settle. Be able to ask good questions that can help you to solidify that relationship, because you're going to find yourself later on, I should have, would have, could have had it if only I asked that question moment.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I want to welcome in Sean Michael. Thank you for joining us. He's our NLP master. I'm telling you, if you haven't had a coffee chat with Sean Michael, I encourage you. But carve out a little bit of time, because you're going to want to hear every word he's got to say and really share some real deep, thoughtful wisdom. Yes, I always say begin with the end in mind. And so I like to start with a living trust, because if we know what we want to leave and how we want to leave those assets, we can reverse engineer it. And this is what I also would recommend, is that don't set it and forget it, because what will
Right.
happen is things are going to evolve and change. Relationships are fluid, and you may feel one way. Revisit your living trust annually, I would say, especially if you're part of a Mosaic family, because so many things happen and can change on a dime. And even when you think things are going good, the best time to talk about it is when things are going well, so that you're not dealing with a bunch of emotions. The worst time to set up your living trust is if you've had a major diagnosis. It really is, because there's so many things you're dealing with. Do it now. I really urge all of you to have these conversations. They're difficult conversations, but they're necessary, because otherwise the dynamics you're going to leave behind for your family is going to be a complete disaster, a complete and total disaster. The other, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that it's highlight your financials, and realize that it's not a one size fits all. We tend to cookie cut or cut corners because we think it's the easiest or the cheapest route. It's like I told a client the other day: do we want to pay for a $5 haircut, or do you want to pay for a $40 haircut? It's not until after the experience that you realize the $5 haircut was just a bowl cut, and a $40 was a stylish cut that made you look good. So learn where to invest and how to invest appropriately, but have those conversations before you get into financially in bed with someone.
Yes. And one of my good friends is an attorney, and he always says it this way: pay me now or pay me more later. Either way, that's okay. I'll do it either way you want to do it. You just really, it's going to take some time. And I don't mean just it's going to take some dollars, it's going to take some elbow grease. It's sitting down, belly button to belly button, and having those real conversations. Because the other part to this is that when we're talking about Mosaic families, if one of the spouses, or when one of the spouses passes away, and now we haven't done any of the planning, we haven't had any of those conversations, and we have this Mosaic family, now you're leaving the burden of the division of those assets on the shoulders of the one surviving spouse. And that is a heavy, heavy load to bear. They have to make a lot of assumptions, and they have to make some decisions based on what they believe would be your wishes. And those may not be your wishes. So I urge you, if you're part of a Mosaic family, please set up your living trust while you're both you're both here still on earth, and your relationship is doing well. Now's the time to have those conversations, so that you can come from a place of more healing, and not a place of anger, resentment, or confusion.
Let me add a caveat to that, if you don't mind.
Yes, please
When
do.
when, when we think about we're encouraging people to talk about these things, uh, that's an issue. Just like I shared earlier about communication, it becomes fear. When you think about, I try to encourage address debt head on. look at your setbacks financially. Try to look at proven strategies that can help with the debt snowball or avalanche methods, however you want to rid this debt. But it's being able to have, I mean, you married this person, you got together, whether it's an intact or a blended or mosaic family. It's what causes us to be afraid to bring up the topic about finances. And often I think it's shame and guilt because of where we've been and what has happened. To have true healing is to push back on that guilt and shame and get out of that mud and get some traction. And you'll see that what was you afraid of? If we can only be honest with ourselves and with our partner that we're sharing this with, that's where true financial happiness can begin, is because you're not doing it by yourself. You got a partner that's hopefully willing to help you to work through that.
Yes. And with all due respect, I'm going to gently push back on the debt snowball. That's a little, no, so it's very antiquated. If you're looking at a debt
Sure.
snowball, talk to me. I'm going to give you some much quicker, faster, easier ways to quickly pay off your debt much more painlessly. But what I want to highlight is this comment by Sean Michael. Wow. Whew. My father remarried and basically abandoned us, his children, and favored the stepkids. You guys, I see this so often. I see this so often, and it is devastating. I don't even know, like, what can you share about this, Dr. Steve?
Sean, first of all, I hate hearing the hurt, especially in the message that comes loud and clear what you've experienced, especially when it's rejection, abandonment twice now. And much like what I've experienced, that's the thing that divorcing caused a lot of issues for me. There was a bankruptcy, and that was hard because she kept spending money, kept spending money, kept spending money. And I'm like, we've got it. But I am a control freak because I take away the credit cards or the checkbook, try to preserve the family and having a household. But I did pay child support, and I was paying 4 times the amount, of child support because she wouldn't, let me rephrase that. She didn't have the capability of earning what was necessary to lessen the burden that for me to provide. So that's the impact that you have on blended families, is the offsets of child support. And so when you think about these things, I paid child support and then I got custody of my kids, and it was almost a slap in the face, but it's like, I don't want child support
Mm.
because I'm able to manage. I want you to be able to take you the money and take care of the kids yourself too. But I gained custody. But what's fascinating though, Leah, is I understand why a lot of men walk away. And I didn't. I believed in my kids, it didn't matter. There was a time that she took me back after my son turned 17, and when you think about that impact, she was trying to get me for child support and arrearage, and I'm like, "No." I was able to show every penny except for one check. And then when I realized that she kept the children away from me, we filed contempt. And so she dropped the child support issue. But when you think about the impact of the fighting that men have to go through to see or be with their children, I was resilient enough to that. I'm thankful for the ethics of my father. My parents been married for 60 years, but it's learning how to be resilient and fight for what you love. And I love my children. And so I stayed and fought. But for many men, they want to walk away because it's either A, lack of responsibility, or B, they just get tired of it being in fighting situations. And it's unfortunate that the children suffer just like Sean suffered. And it's so good to see that, Sean, you did forgive him. At the same time, it's still painful. There is no excuse as to why, men or women, not just men, but women too, walk away. And it's a horrifying story you read in the news about a woman that shot her kids. And I'm like, where does a parent, what happens to the mind that we want to hurt our children this way? And it's more about stop warring with the other parent and start collaborating for the benefit and the healthiness of your child's mindset, and stop the transgenerational trauma.
Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. I don't know where this hour's gone, but I told you guys this was going to be a profound conversation. Please share it, tag somebody who could benefit from this. This work is so deeply needed. Listen, they say what, 50% or 60% of marriages in divorce. Most of us are going to be impacted by a Mosaic family. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that in some form or fashion. Either you're going to participate in one, you're going to love somebody who's one, you're going to find yourself having new family members because of this, and now it changes the whole family dynamics. And how can we do this gracefully and create that new mosaic? You've made a lot of new fans and friends here. I would love for you to share what can we expect to see from. I know you're doing a lot of things. I didn't know you were a songwriter. If you didn't see this, if you didn't see the song or hear the song, it's incredible. What can we expect to see from you in the next year? What's 26 looking like for you, Doctor?
The goal is to complete some research. What I'm wanting to do is get rid of the term parental alienation syndrome, because the mental health field doesn't recognize it. It wasn't put into the DSM. And what I'm looking for is being able to define a new term called disruptive parental attachment, that I can prove that the attachment disruption causes behavioral issues among children. So that's part of my research. The other one is trying to be more advocating for veterans. The song that you're talking about is the one that I wrote for veterans. It's funny that I go back and I find these papers that I've written, and I found this new AI tool that just puts it to music. I was fortunate that I grew up in a musical family, so I understand some of the dynamics of tones and things, instruments and things like that, to tie it into this AI that creates the song that I did. Now, if I can get a if you guys know a famous song, several, I'm not going to put any names out there, but you know what I mean, the songwriter, the singers and things like that. I would love to be connected, have one of the songs put out there on air.
Oh, it's beautiful. I said, oh my gosh. I listened to it first and then I read the passage. I said, oh my gosh, he wrote this song. It's beautiful. How are people going to be able to connect with you? Where do they reach you? How do they find you?
Yeah, so I am, like this. As soon as this is released, I'm going to put it on my news feed on my website. For any news updated, those type of things. I just did a press release today about my book, the work that I'm doing. It's on my website. It's www.drsteveh.com. That's my website. It does have my email or contact information that's there. Steve at drsteveh.com is the easier way to do it. So yeah, that's how they can connect.
Awesome. And please put it in the comments after the event. And, if you don't know Nick and her boo M, she calls him N. His name's Marcos. Everyone calls him Mark, but she calls him M. I think that's so cute. They're adorable. They are adorable. And she made a comment earlier. They talk about everything. I mean, they have a wonderful relationship. If you see their connection, it's just incredible. It's really, really so beautiful. I've enjoyed this. I believe that you brought so much value. You brought a lot of light to this blended mosaic family, on really how we can think about it. And I would really encourage you, buy this book. You can get it on Kindle. You can buy the paperback. I was waiting for the hardcover, but I think we got to wait a little bit more for hardcover, because this is a book you're going to want to read and share with other people. I think this work is profound. It's so much needed. And you're such an incredible person. I mean, there's so much to you. You're so dynamic. Thank you for showing up, Dr. Steve. I appreciate your time. I know you've got a really tight schedule, so we got to honor and respect that. Please reach out to him, connect with him. He's big on LinkedIn, on social media, and just enjoy a coffee chat. Listen, it is time for us to get to know each other and really create our beautiful blended Mosaic community. So with that, thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate you. We love you. Join me every single Wednesday. I'm here every single week where we talk about wealth in all areas, in our faith, family, finance, fitness, fun, philanthropic, because I believe that givers gain. And the seventh F is food, because I am a foodie. I love food. I think food brings us together. Food tells us so much about each other. And it's really the thing that we can all do. Even if you're not a good cook, like Nick is an amazing cook. You got to follow her just for her foodie stuff. But you know what? I'm not a great cook, but I'm a wonderful eater. I love food. I love to eat food. If you're a good cook, bring me a meal. I'll try it out. You need a sampler. I got you. I'm your girl. So with that being said, thank you so much, everybody. Remember that this is 2025, fourth quarter. It is fourth quarter. You can do more in the fourth quarter than you did all year long. This is your year to rise up and thrive and have it be the best year of your life. And what do I mean? In all areas of your life, in all areas of your health. Folks, we've already had generational poverty. Now it's time for us to flip the script and have generational prosperity. Remember that wealth today should be a dynasty tomorrow. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you. Thank you for showing up. We love you live, and we love you, Team Replay. Thank you so much, everybody.
Are you a business owner looking to secure your financial future and create a lasting legacy? I'm Leah Garcia, a financial strategist and insurance professional, and I specialize in guiding businesses with up to 50 employees on how to effectively protect and transfer their wealth. We break down silos with my unique approach, the Wall of Wealth. Imagine a seamless collaboration among your CPA, tax attorney, estate planner, and insurance expert, each playing their part in perfect harmony, ensuring your financial strategy is not just effective, but a true masterpiece. My passion stems from my own journey, from growing up on food stamps to dreaming of building community centers that empower others. Together, we'll craft a roadmap that not only safeguards your assets, but also nurtures generational wealth for your loved ones. Let's transform your vision into reality. After all, you can't measure the heart of a champion just by looking at them. Join me, and let's make your financial future shine.